I'm Frederick Wemyss. Here is Chapter 2 of a novel I'm working on. There was a controversial play that year, at a time when the selling points were searing, shattering, and of today. It was 1957, and the play was Dark Monday. You'll want to look it up on IMDb. You'll want to punch me when you can't find it. It fell apart with the star. It did not make it to previews. I'll preview a bit of her last night on the planet. See the blur of mink, peaches and cream torpedoing out of that checkered cab on Houston? I thought not. It's too dark. Halogen had not yet turned its questioning beam on every noirish crevice of the night. But as the curtain lifts to show the new dawn, the black pool remains where the other cab hit her. The obituaries didn't even mention her new project, although my parents and their friends knew of it. They knew her. She used to drop by, draped like her own mink stole, over the shoulder of Butch Romney, and that really was his last name, professor of drama at one or another of the state colleges with classrooms in Manhattan skyscrapers. A few months before, it had been a girl from an ad in Vogue. For a while he brought back a girl from a radio detective show. "It's Monday again," my mother would say to Dad. "Who's he going to bring tonight?" Mom would have been preparing deviled eggs. "Not the Princess of Monaco," my father said, but Butch Romney got actresses to lecture his class every Monday night. I remember him decades later, I being -3 in the year this happened, detailing plays he'd seen or the method of a particular performer. He knew his stuff. "Does he ever have an actor, O.R., speak to his class?" "He's not that way," Dad said, wiggling his eyebrows. "It's always an actress?" "You know that, Jane," my father said. "Why doesn't he stick with any of them?" "They're flighty," Dad said. "He's flighty." "If you were a young actress," my father said, and indeed my mother had been an actress, a young one, for 3 years before they married, but had given it up, "you would die for a chance to hear so-and-so speak." So-and-so? Now my father hadn't actually said so-and-so, and neither had my mother, because I'm not going to tell you the name of the vision who would cross their threshold 45 minutes later. But my father had said her name, and my mother had exclaimed it. "How in hell?" "So-and-so," said my father, who, as I've said, didn't really use that exact word, "is coming to Broadway." "Broadway? You're supposed to pronounce it Broadway," said Dad. "No way," said Mom. "So-and-so," not her words, "can't act her way out of a paper bag. She can act her way into a plum roll. It's not a musical, is it?" "Oh, no. Butch says they dub her voice anyway, or did." "Did? Well, she apparently hasn't made a movie in 10 years. Oh, come on, I see her in everything." "You think you do. Wasn't she in From Here to Eternity?" "No." "Maybe one of those teeny bopper things?" "She's 40. "She's on TV?" "No, she isn't. My parents, Stevenson Democrats, didn't have TV anyway." "But she's huge." "She's been drying out." "Oh, where?" "The Mayo Clinic, and other places." "Oh, my God." My mother had actually worked at one such place. When a particular singer was there, she and the other staff had played one of her records in the courtyard. She came out to the balcony after the song ended. They saw her, clapped, and then she sang, in her hospital gown, her signature song. You know it, I'm sure, and you know enough about her to know this is true. My mother knew the stars were often ill-starred. My mother had no trouble believing that Butch Romney had an interest in the starlet he had secured this Monday. What do you think she told the girls in the class today? How to give Louis B. Mayer the doorbell rang. Such an entrance as you can imagine took place, but not before the other professors arrived, in tweed, and their wives in little round velvet hats with a flower or two. My father would have poured bourbon for the men, and my mother would have shown the women my infant older brother asleep in the room off the kitchen. There would have been cooing. The women would then have sat and had cocktails as the men laughed about whatever it was men who'd fought in an existential war laughed about 12 years on. All had deviled eggs. Butch beamed a few hours later when, one or two couples having already left, he stood aside to present so-and-so, the door swinging open. They looked like they'd just flown in from a wedding in Las Vegas, she leaning on him and he straightening his tie. How sober she seemed, and how naturally pleasant. She told the gathering how rehearsals were going, about the dear playwright who was so nervous but confident in her, about the weak-willed director with authoritarian ways who let her interpret the important role her way. She'd been painted on the sides of bombs and the noses of planes delivering them. She'd socked hop across the continent with the bands who played the sound of victory, impending present and future. She'd been slapped across the face by not one but two studio heads. "Give me a drink," she said. And when, 2.5 hours later, she kept trying to throw the mink out of the cab, Butch, my father, and two of the women were trying to throw her in, they had to retrieve her dress from the puddle of piss by the fire hydrant, which she'd thrown from the apartment window. "Cover her up, for God's sake," said Butch to the cab driver, handing him a $1,000 piece of pelt. Immediately preceding the unsolicited striptease in the kitchen, so-and-so had been spinning her arms out over and over. "Yes, it's about a couple," she said. "It's about a couple, and it's a searing drama, shattering. The couple act on the stage, and they love each other every way but one. On Mondays, dark Mondays, he waits alone while she visits a stockbroker. He waits at the window and greets her gently when she returns. The next night they stroll the boards, dazzling their audience with repartee and shattering drama." "That sounds wonderful," said my mother, or one of the other women. "Act 3, though," shouted so-and-so, as if shouting, "Shut up." "Act 3 begins as she comes home to find the window unoccupied and the bedroom door closed. She knocks. She knocks louder this time. She opens the door, and I do this with a smile as innocent and wholesome as anything painted by Rockwell. And out comes the boy, whose grin is also as wholesome and innocent. Intermission! The playwright, the star of whose production had had the life crushed out of her by a cab as gargantuan as the one in her final picture a decade earlier, was the guest next Monday. Butch brought him to the party exactly on time. They all asked him if he had any other plays in him. The playwright looked around. "I need a drink," he said. Thank you.